Somewhere around 300,000 years ago, a human picked up something they had never seen before, looked at it for a moment, and put it in their mouth. No one told them it was safe. There was no one to ask. No label, no color-coded warning, no field guide, no older sibling who had tried it first. Just a thing that existed in the world and a decision. That decision, and thousands like it, made by people across hundreds of thousands of years, is the reason you exist. One wrong call in the wrong direction and the chain breaks. You don't get here. Here's the uncomfortable part. You could not do what they did. Neither could I. Put either of us in a forest with no prior knowledge. Tell us to identify something safe to eat before dark, and we would be in serious trouble. Not tricky trouble. More like confidently eat the wrong berry in the first 20 minutes, spend the next 4 hours regretting it, get found by a park ranger looking extremely sorry. We outsourced this skill to a supermarket about 10,000 years ago and never looked back. So how did they do it? How did prehistoric humans build and keep enough knowledge about the natural world to eat safely, daily, for hundreds of thousands of years, with no infrastructure, no writing, and no one who had done it before them? The answer has 3 parts, and each one is stranger than you'd expect. Start with the body, because the body was doing more work than most people realize. The clearest piece of biological equipment prehistoric humans had for this problem is called taste aversion learning, and it is one of the fastest, most durable forms of learning the human brain is capable of. Here's how it works. You eat something, feel sick hours later, and your brain immediately forms a strong, lasting association between that food and that illness. Even if the illness had nothing to do with the food, even if you consciously know the food wasn't the problem, the association forms anyway, fast, deep. Eat bad clams once, and your brain flags clams as a threat for years, sometimes forever. One exposure. That's all it takes. If you have a food you stopped eating after one bad night and never went back to, that's not being dramatic. That's 300,000 years of survival firmware doing exactly what it was designed to do. The fact that it's been 11 years and it was probably the mayonnaise and not the potato is irrelevant. The potato is off the menu. The potato knows what it did. Most learning requires repetition, the same stimulus presented multiple times before the brain consolidates the connection. Taste aversion wires itself in after a single instance across a delay of hours, which is the exact window in which food poisoning shows up. The brain evolved specifically to learn this lesson from as few data points as possible. The dangerous plants didn't get a second chance. But taste aversion only explains what got taken off the menu. The more interesting question is how new things got added, how anyone decided to try something unfamiliar in the first place, and how they evaluated whether it was safe before committing fully. This is where a set of behavioral instincts comes in, not conscious strategies, just reflexes refined over millions of years of omnivore evolution. Smell first. The human nose can detect compounds associated with decay and certain plant toxins before they enter the body. Not perfectly. Plenty of dangerous things smell fine. But rotting food triggers an immediate disgust response that functions as a first filter. Taste before swallowing. Bitterness is the human palate's primary alarm for plant toxins. Alkaloids, the class of compounds that include most plant-based poisons, from strychnine to caffeine, are almost universally bitter. Human sensitivity to bitterness is dramatically higher than sensitivity to any other taste, specifically because the cost of missing a toxin is death. And the cost of a false positive is just spitting something out, which means every person who has ever refused a vegetable because it tasted bitter was technically running an ancient survival protocol correctly. You weren't being picky. You were being ancestrally cautious. Tell your parents. Tell them the broccoli was suspicious and your body knew. Small amounts first. Across every foraging culture documented by anthropologists, there's a consistent pattern of cautious, incremental testing with unfamiliar food. A small taste, a weight, an assessment, then more if nothing went wrong. Not a formal protocol, just a deeply ingrained tendency that made the difference between a useful experiment and a fatal one. And then, watch what others eat before you try it yourself. Other primates do this extensively, observing group members eat before approaching a new food source. If experienced individuals eat something without consequence, the risk assessment shifts dramatically. Children in foraging societies learn food safety almost entirely through observation, not instruction. The knowledge moves without a single word being said. This is still exactly what we do, by the way, just at restaurants now. What did you order? Is it good? Can I try a bite? Same protocol, same risk assessment, same primate behavior. We just do it with better lighting and a bill at the end. But instinct and individual learning still don't explain the full depth of what prehistoric humans knew, because some of what they knew was genuinely sophisticated in ways that couldn't have emerged from trial and error alone. Take cassava. A root crop now feeds roughly 800 million people. It contains cyanogenic compounds that will poison you if eaten raw. The traditional preparation involves peeling, grating, pressing, soaking, and heating in specific sequences. Skip any step and the toxin remains. Multiple civilizations figured this out. No contact with each other. Same conclusion. Without chemistry, without writing, without any of the tools we associate with formally figuring things out. Just generations of people noticing, adjusting, passing it forward. The knowledge was the technology, and it worked well enough that cassava now feeds 800 million people, quietly, without credit. The most likely explanation isn't one genius moment of deliberate experimentation. It's an accumulation. Someone noticed that soaked cassava caused fewer problems. Over generations, the soaking got longer. Pressing out the liquid helped further. The preparation refined itself, not because anyone designed it, but because the steps that caused fewer deaths got passed on, and the steps that caused more deaths got abandoned. Natural selection operates not on genes, on knowledge. Which brings us to the mechanism that actually explains most of what prehistoric humans knew: cultural transmission. Individual learning is slow, risky, and limited to one lifetime. Cultural transmission is fast, safe, and theoretically unlimited. One person discovers a berry is toxic, tells 5 people, those 5 tell 5 more. The knowledge spreads across the group without anyone else needing to be poisoned. Anthropologists call this cumulative culture, the ability to build on what previous generations learned rather than starting from scratch. Not opposable thumbs, not big brains. This is the actual superpower, the ability to hand knowledge forward with enough fidelity that arrives generations later, still intact, still usable, still accurate. Every human alive today is the beneficiary of a chain of transmission stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Not one link in that chain chose to be in it. All of them were anyway. The Aboriginal Australians, virtually every foraging group studied by anthropologists, carries detailed botanical knowledge, refined and transmitted over thousands of years. Which plants bear fruit in which season? Which roots need which preparation? Which combinations cause problems? Which parts are safe at which stage of growth? None of it was assembled in a single lifetime. All of it inherited, tested, refined, passed forward. That's what kept prehistoric humans alive. Not a genius, not luck, not some instinct we've somehow lost. Just people paying attention, remembering what mattered, and telling the next person what they'd learned. Every recipe passed down in your family is this. Every "don't eat that, grandma said so" is this. The chain never broke. You're here because it didn't.